Alright, so this is going to be a fast tutorial, meaning you may need to pause, but I want you to create something similar to what I have here, and this is just an example of some of the features, what I would call advanced features, for the Photoshop Magazine project. So without wasting any time, let me move on here. We're going to begin by creating a new document, 500 wide, 700 high, 150, and hit OK. And then we'll fill in the background layer. Again, that's your paint bucket tool. You can fill it in with the current foreground color, which would be your top color here. Or, of course, you could use a pattern or a texture if you wanted to. In this case, I could choose to fill it in with a pattern, or I could just choose to fill it in with foreground. I'm just going to do a blue background, similar to what I have here. All right. First off, we're going to start in the bottom corner. Most of this stuff you should already kind of know how to do, but just as a review, I'm going to insert a circle. So we'll take our shape tool here and use the ellipse tool, drawing a circle that hangs off. And just remember, things can hang off. Now, immediately shapes are going to have a shape color box. In this case, this shape is a shade of yellow, but we're actually going to turn this into a gradient in a minute. You're also going to see on this shape that there is a yellow stroke and an outer glow. So I'm going to go ahead and put those on. So stroke, and I'm going to size that up a little bit, and we're going to make it a yellow color. And we're going to go ahead and add that outer glow. Now, if you didn't make your background color a color that we can see, you might not be able to see your outer glow as you add it. So you're going to want to mess with that a little bit to make sure that you can actually tell that you've got a glow going on there. Okay, so there's my glow. And then I can go ahead and hit OK. Lastly, we want to do a gradient on here, and that's going to be another layer style, gradient overlay. When you do your gradient, it's going to have two colors. You're going to click on the gradient thing and then choose your colors here. These are the bottom boxes that are the colors. So if I'm doing a white to yellow or a yellow to white, then I would choose the first color. And you can double click it and choose it, or you can come down here and choose your foreground or background if you already have it chosen. I'm going to just click on it and choose a yellow color for the bottom. And then of course you choose your white for the other side. And when you hit OK, you can come in here and scoot your gradient up if you want to, a little bit before you hit OK, so you get the side of it that you want. You can also change the angle of the gradient if you wish. I'm going to go from this corner out and hit OK. And that pretty much takes care of the first one. Now that line is the path line of the shape. If you click off the shape, that line does go away. Alright, so we've got something sort of like that here in the bottom corner. On my example, I've really got it kind of a little farther down in there, or it's not so big, one or the other. But anyway, just basically the general gist of it. Now, if you're going to put words in here, please be careful and don't click in the shape, because they're going to get stuck in the shape like this, connected to that line. So I'm going to hit cancel here, and I'm going to back up here and insert your text over here. And then after you've inserted your text, then move it into place. And on this project, you're going to want to not type your text over the top of shapes. You're going to want to type it somewhere else first and then put it into the spot. All right, moving on to the next one here. This is going to be a picture inside of a shape with a double stroke. So you're going to grab a picture, doesn't matter what. Of course, I've got this little picture here that says hi. This is my little Bitmoji girl. I'm going to drag her in so she's ready to roll, and Control T, hold from the corner with Shift to size her down, and then we'll take our circle. Doesn't really totally matter what color, but right now it's still using the one from before, so just know it's probably going to add that layer style, and I'll have to clear that out. But anyway, so I'm going to draw my circle, and I'm going to choose a white color. And I'm not going to get the whole thing, it's just going to be part of it. So I'm just going to draw a circle that will get this part of her. So she's just little. Now, if it automatically adds your layer style, just right click and clear the layer style. Then we're going to put the picture above the shape. And it's a good idea to name these or it's going to get confusing. Here's my Bitmoji. Alright, and then we clipping mask that in. So right click, create clipping mask. By the way, you can also hold down the Alt key and click between the layers. It makes like a padlock or something. And that would put it in or out of the clipping mask. Now I can still click on her and scoot her around with the move tool while she's in the clipping mask, so if I wanted to reposition this here, I could. Alright, so now we're going to add the stroke to the shape, not to the picture of the girl. So we click back on the shape, add a stroke, and in the case of the example, I think I had a white stroke and then a black, but here, since I have a white background, I'm going to do the black stroke first. So you choose your background, or your first stroke, make it whatever size you want, and hit OK. Then you're going to move that stroke to its own layer. So you right-click and click Create Layer. So now the outer stroke's on a layer. Because we can't do two strokes, we're moving the stroke to its own layer, then we're stroking the stroke. And we'll do that with white. And that'll give you that look that looks like a double stroke, making it a little bigger there on the outside. Of course, you could add a drop shadow or anything else if you wanted to make it look a little better. But in your project, you would do it based on whatever your original had. Alright, now if I get ready to move all this together, I would have to hold down my Shift key and then click up on the top layer so they're all selected, and then I could move it to a different location. Just remember they're all in different pieces. Now you could also have made a folder and then put all those pieces in a folder, and that would work too. Alright, moving on. I've got this polygon with my face. So I'm going to draw a polygon. We click and hold to get to the polygon tool. It's 5 sides, so that works. And we draw the polygon. I'm not too worried about where it is. I'll move it here in a second. Then we take the picture, drag your picture in. It's going to be too big here, so I'm going to go ahead and scale that out. I'm going to zoom, Control minus to zoom, and Control T for handles. I'm going to get this size down to a reasonable size and put it there. Now real quickly, I'm just going to pull the opacity back so I can see where the shape is. I want my head to stick out of the shape at the top. So now that I know that it fits in there for the most part, pull my opacity back up. Now if I go ahead and I put if I clipping mask this in, my head's not sticking out and I want it to stick out. So I'm going to release the clipping mask for a minute. And then I'm going to select the part of my head, just that general region that I want to stick out. It's okay if it's not the entire head. That's not that big a deal. Alright, so once you get the part that you want to stick out selected, then you're going to move that part out to a new layer. There, that should be good. So to do that, you're just going to right-click here and layer via copy. That's going to put that part out on a new layer. I'm going to call this the poke out part because that's the part that's going to poke out. Now, that's that. There's my poke out part. And then here's the head, which I'm going to clipping mask now back into the shape. And then it looks like my head's popping out of the shape. Now you could have also just duplicated this layer and then added a clipping mask around that. Selected the head and added, or not a clipping mask, but a regular layer mask. You could do that with a layer mask too. And then if you wanted to touch this up, it would be easier. Because touching this up now isn't going to work, and I didn't do the greatest job selecting. But either way is an option. And I'll go ahead and show the second way too. I'll release the clipping mask. It's not that this way is wrong. It's really not. But so I could duplicate it. So I have the copy of the head. On the head copy, I would then select the part that I know I'm going to want. I hate how this just grabs everything so quickly. And then once I get the part that I want on there, and again with a mask, you don't really have to be all that good about this selection here because we can touch it up. And then just add the layer mask right here like this while it's selected, and then clipping mask it in. Same concept, except now I can use my brush and I can get rid or paint in, oops, wrong kind of brush here, paint in the various things as I need them. And then I could fix it, touch it up, whatever, with the other color on your layer mask. Alright, good enough for now. That's that one. Alright, continuing on, you can see here I've got the word Jackson, and this word is warped, so we're going to insert some text here. Again, I'm using Impact font if you care to try to use a similar font, but it's certainly not required in this exercise. Once you get it in there, if you want, you can Control T and make it bigger without changing the actual size of the font, and then use your type tool with this in order to warp it. And in this case, I believe I've got it arched or arced, one or the other. So we'll just go ahead and do that there. that would be, again, each of these are kind of special features. Doing the double stroking, doing the clipping mask, using the warp would all be considered special features. So now that I've got this going on, if I wanted to make each of the other ones different colors like I did in the example, you'll do the first one, and then the fastest way is to click and pull the color from the first one for the second one. Again, come up, click, pull the color from that one for this one. And in this case, we have overlapping letters, so I just selected all of it and then modified the tracking to negative so that those letters overlap. And then again, if it makes it too small, just go ahead and press Ctrl T, and you can resize that to look better than what it does. All right, close enough there. Here I've just added a brush that came from the brushes folder out on the drive. Something to remember about brushes, well actually this one's a shape. There's shapes and there's brushes. Shapes make their own layer. So if you're going to create a shape, you just go up to your shapes, choose custom shapes, choose the drop down, hit the play button, and then you can load shapes from the drive. I have this one here called Michelle's tags that I actually just already have downloaded, and then I could come in here and find one of these arrows and put it in there. So again, since it's a shape, it will draw its own layer, and then of course I can position it, Ctrl T, rotate it, and so forth. So there we go. Alright, so there's that one. Now here is a sheep, and the sheep is a doodle, and a doodle is a brush. So let me go ahead first and draw the circle for the sheep. So I'm going to draw me a circle using my ellipse tool. The color doesn't really so much matter, but we don't want it to be white because the sheep is going to be white. I'm just going to go steal this yellow. That's not what I used on the example, but it's fine. So I've got my shape here. Now look, my shape got stuck somehow in a clipping mask, so I'm just going to release it since it has that arrow on it so I can see it. Now the sheep is sort of stamped on there, but you can't do that to a vector or to a shape. So you're going to make a layer, and then on this layer you can stamp in with a brush. So I would take my brush, come up and choose my drop down and over, and I would load that brush. And this is one of the doodle brushes. There's different doodle brushes in here. Doodles 2 sounds good. We'll put that in there. Scroll all the way down, and then I've got my sheep. And then again, you're going to change your color for your doodle to white. Come in here in the middle. Now if you click one time, it's kind of faint. So what I do is not move my mouse, and I just kind of double click, triple click a couple of times. That makes it darker each time that you click. Alright, the last thing on this part of the video, which we're going to call part 1, is to stroke around this, but instead of a solid stroke, which is what we would get if we came to FX, I want a dotted or a dashed stroke. So to do that, we have to do this differently. And in this case, we have to create the path of this circle. Now we already have a circle, so we're going to use this circle to create a selection. Now to do that, you switch to the Paths panel, and we just right-click and make a selection, and just hit OK. Now we have marching ants around that circle. I'm going to make a new layer for my sheep, which I already did, and then on this layer, I'm going to go back to my paths, and I'm going to hit this little button to make a path from the selection. So now I have a work path. Now this is the fun part. You're going to go back to your layer, now that I have a work path, and I'm going to choose my brush, and I'm going to bring up my brushes panel. Now I need to pick my circle, or if I was using square brushes, I could choose a square brush. So what you want is you want to be at 100% when you're doing this, and I'm not right now. So I need to zoom out, so I'm at 100%. Whatever percent I am here is the exact size these dots are going to be. So that 30 would be way too big of dots to go around that. So like something like that, and then you space. And you just keep adding space until you get the look you're looking for. There we go. There's my dots. If I want white dots, then I make sure that I've got white on top. So I've got all of this going on and I'm ready. I'm on my blank layer, so I just go to the path, right-click it, and stroke path with the brush. So it uses those brush settings. And there we go. And initially you can still see the path, so if that gets on your nerves, just drag the path down, and then you've got that stroke. Alright, so this is part 1 of some bonus extra fun things that go along with our magazine project. And then we have one more little session on a few more tools.